What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. Now, what exactly am I going to be talking about in this today's video? Well, I'm sure you got a little bit of a hint of the subject based on the title of this video in general, but I'm going to be talking about something that is obviously something that not a lot of people talk about, because there's not a lot of people that do this specific type of ritual magic. I'm going to be talking about my Universe.B vampire service. Now, what exactly am I going to be talking about when it comes to the Universe.B vampire service? I'm going to specifically be covering exactly how I perform the service. How do I do the ritual myself on the people who are receiving the service? I'm sure there are a lot of people that are curious about what do I do when I actually perform this ritual, and it is a very significant ritual. I've been doing it for over a year now. There have been, I'm sure, 1,000 people who have received the service by this point, and I have received tons of valuable feedback, and I've seen how the ritual and the service itself really manifests in certain people's lives. It's very profound. It triggers changes. So once again, with that being said, if this is something that you're interested in learning a little bit more about, you have one thing to do, and that is simply to stay tuned. Alright, let me first start with introducing myself. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I am a professional occultist. I am fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree. I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck, and I'm also studied when it comes to planetary energies in direct association with astrology. Alright, now I'm talking about my Universe.B vampire service. For those of you that don't know, this is a service that I perform on the 29th of every single month that has a 29th for the most part. Sometimes the day varies, either between the 28th or the 30th at times, but most oftentimes it's performed on the 29th. And this is a Patreon service for the top tier Patreon members. And most people that are members of the Patreon actually happen to be top tier members. So most people have received this service that are actually listening to this right now, listening to this video right now. Most people that follow me and are consistent with my content and are really getting a lot of value from it, a lot of these individuals are Universe.B vampires who have received my top tier service. All right, so jumping out the gate, that's what the service is. That's where you can find it. It's the first link in the YouTube description. That's where you'll find my Patreon, then tier number 4. All right. Now, for those of you that are either curious about maybe getting the service at one point in your life, or just maybe even somebody who's received the service, I'm sure there are people here that have received the service that are still very curious about what exactly I do to perform the ritual itself. And for the most part, the entire ritual is documented. I document it on the Patreon, on the lens clips. So I will literally take you through the process of how I design and how I create the ritual itself. But once again, this is what this video is for. I'm going to really be breaking it down as best as I can. So starting off, the first thing that I do is I create a ritual paper of all the participants who are going to be receiving the service. So specifically, I reach out to all the new participants. I get their full real names. And then I have this piece of paper that I design, which is created in a ritualistic format. And I have it set up where I'm commanding what I want to happen for the ritual. So I will literally command, name, etc. of the participants to become Universe.B vampires, giving them the ability to feed off of chaos and turn it into their own evolutionary power and potential. I command this to happen right now. And for all the members who are already reoccurring members, so not the new participants, I already have a completely separate piece of paper with all of your information on it. I have all of your names. All of your names sit on the Vampire Sigil throughout the month. And then when it comes to the 29th, when I perform the service, I take that piece of paper with your names and I place it in my Triangle of the Magician during the ritual performance to link your energy bodies into the ritual. But as I said, I create this piece of paper. It has all the names. It commands the intent. And then from every letter that is in that ritual, every single letter I break down to a Chaldean number. So I'm adding numerology into the equation. And I'm breaking every single number, every single letter down to a number. This process typically will take me up to 2.5 hours, sometimes even 3 hours, depending on how big the service is going to be. Once I go through and put a number or assign a number to every letter, the next step is I add all the numbers up between each word. So I will have a specific word with every letter in that word assigned to a number, and then I will add all those numbers up in that word itself. And typically I will come up with numbers that are in all the way from the 10 range to the 30 range at times. The most average is going to be around the 15 mark, somewhere around that number. So I will do that with every single word that is in the ritual. Okay? Every single word gets broken down into a single digit. So typically I'll get the numbers 15, get the numbers 12, sometimes 22, 30. And then once all that is complete, then I will break it down even further using the equations of numerology. So for example, if I have the number 15, if an entire word broke down between each letter came out to the number 15, then I will break that down even further, and that would be 1 plus 5, which equals 6. So the final condensed number for that word is the number 6. And I will do that for every single word and break it down to its 8th degree, break it down to the farthest root that I can get to. Now, when I have that final number, the way that I use that is I use that as a Kabbalistic link. So that final number to me, hypothetically speaking, if we're using the number 6 as an example, that would represent the 6th sphere on the Kabbalistic tree. So the next step for the ritual is I get a specific series of colors from markers or pens or crayons, whatever I can use. Usually I'm using markers. And I will assign the yellow marker, which is the color of the sphere of Tifereth, which is the 6th sphere, and I will assign that to the number 6 on this ritual sheet of paper. And I will do that with all the other numbers that I see on the ritual itself, assigning them to Kabbalistic spheres. So not only is it being broken down in numerology and tapping into all of those patterns itself of sacred geometry, high-level metaphysics, but now I'm also adding in the Kabbalistic tree and completely linking in that energy to the ritual itself. All right? Once that's finished, what I've done at this point is I've taken every single number that it is broken down to its final form between each word, and I add everything up. So every single word in its final form is added up between all the different numbers, and then I will come out to a final number. The final number oftentimes is in the 200s, the 300s, and the 400s. I will take that final number and then I'll condense it even further. So if the number was 403, then in numerology that breaks down to 7, 4 plus 7. 4 plus 0 plus 7. Or excuse me, 4 plus 0 plus 3. So that would equal 7. So 403 broken down equals 7. And that's the final number. And what I do for the participants is I tell them, the ones that are participating, I tell them to link into that number by simply getting a piece of paper yourself or a flashcard and writing that number down. So if the final number of the ritual was 403 equals 7, then I want you to write that exact same thing down if you're receiving the service of that month. You have the ability to further link into the ritual. So then, yes, at that point I have all the participants write down that final number, and then what I do on my end is I will literally trace the number itself in all the different planetary colors. So all the same colors that I used for the different numbers, I will then trace the final number with all those different colors. Just linking it into all those different Kabbalistic energies and anything else that's behind it, all those planetary energies. This flashcard that the participants are copying and writing down for that final number is going to be burned at the end of my ritual performance. Doesn't really matter exactly what time you burn it, just once I complete the ritual, you burn it on your own time and it will further link you into the ritual. All right, that's what it's for. So then the next step, once I have all the numbers calculated, once the entire ritual is finished in regards to its setup, then I go to actually perform the ritual myself. I set up my space, I set up my quartz crystal circle, okay? The next step is I have my triangle of the magician, which is my 3 smoky quartz crystals that are formed in a triangular shape. And what I'll do is I'll put the names of all the reoccurring participants in that triangle, linking them into the ritual, making sure that they are a part of it, pulling their energy bodies into the ritual itself. I will typically have a couple other things set up, like I have a pentagram that I flaked in gold that I've been using for a very long time, a wooden pentagram. I'll put that in just outside the circle. I'll have these 2 stones, 3 stones that I've picked up back in California, and I use them to link into all the statue structures and stone power structures that have psychic significance to them. And I'll place them in a triangle format. So it's like I'm at the top of the pyramid while I'm in my circle. So I'll have everything set up in that way. I'll have my orb, I'll have my wand, I'll have my grimoire. And now the entire ritual space is ready. So now it's time to actually perform the ritual. So clearly, I will step in the circle. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to invoke my higher self. I'm going to invoke my personal daemon. Because a major part of this ritual is inserting my pre-established energy body, being a Universe B vampire myself who has fully initiated into the clip-off. So I already have the Universe B vampire energy body. I already have a negative spin to my torsion field, to my energy body's torsion field. It spins counterclockwise. It's the same spiral that you see with my vampire sigil, or the symbol of my YouTube channel, how it spirals counterclockwise. So this is a part of my energy body. So a major aspect of this ritual is inserting my energy field, my own higher self, into the participants that are receiving the service to download the spin, to download that negative torsion field spin to their own energy bodies so that they can start to basically use my higher self as a crutch to start downloading information and capabilities and attributes and powers to then get to a position where they can start establishing a relationship with their own higher self or with their own daemon and basically set them on that path of pursuing the negative polarity. Setting them on the path of initiating themselves within Universe B. That's what the intention is behind the ritual. So, as I said, the beginning step is me invoking my daemon. And that takes a little bit of time to do in the beginning. And once that's finished, then I will go through and I will read the ritual off itself. So I will take the entire ritual that I have on that piece of paper, which is commanding my intent, and I will read that off 5 times. The reason why I'm reading it off 5 times is to link into the pentagram. I got the pentagram right here on my pinky. I don't know if you can see it. I guess, yep. To link right into that pentagram. Okay? So I read it off 5 times for that. Then the next step, let me just make sure. Okay. Then the next step is once that's been read over 5 times, I will take my wand and I will trace out the entire ritual itself. So I will trace my intent. So if I say, I command blank, 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 blank to become Universe B vampires, I will trace out each word or each letter in the air, going through the entire ritual. And then once I've completely traced everything out, and I'm visualizing myself tracing it in the air and everything of that nature as I'm going through the process, then I will see my orb in front of me, and I'll tap the orb 11 times with my right hand, and I'll download everything that I just traced out into the orb. And the orb is a psychic generator. It's a psychic storer of energy. It stores psychic energy. And it's very powerful in that sense, and it's crystallized in its nature. It's a crystal. So clearly, on our planet, there is tons of crystallized aspects of our planet itself. So you can use the sphere orb as sort of like a representation of the planet's energy body. And that's one of the ways that I use it. So I'm putting all that energy that I just traced into the orb, downloading it into the energy body of the planet itself so that this can further manifest. All right? Once that's finished, then I will sit down and I will start visualizing taking the participants, specifically the new participants, because all the reoccurring members have already gone through this process. So I will visualize taking the new participants to a cave of initiation. So I have my own astral dimension, not necessarily meaning like it's my own exclusive dimension. Other people can absolutely experience it if they wander into that dimension, but I have my own astral dimension that has my own kingdom. So literally I can visualize and I can see within my mind's eye, I have my own kingdom that I've really been able to culminate and establish ever since I was going through my high-level initiations within the clip-off. So because I have my own kingdom, I've created these, we could call them, I guess, astral buildings or astral structures that can be used for initiatory purposes from the principle of as above, so below. So I can take people to these astral structures on that astral plane by psychic visualization, and I can initiate them, and through that principle, as above, so below, it will actually affect their physical bodies and affect their energy fields. So what I'll do is I'll take people to a cave of initiation that is just outside of my kingdom, and this is what I like to consider a spider cave. It's a dark, feminine, spider-like cave of initiation. So when you go into it, it's very dark. There are many spiders that are inside of this cave. Every single one of those spiders is significant of a being that can weave the web of destiny, as well as being able to inject the individuals who are in the cave with influence of vampiric energy bodies or a negative polarity. So the spiders can bite you and inject you with a certain type of poison or venom that essentially starts alchemically changing the individuals who are getting bit for the negative polarity. So I will bring these people into this cave. There's going to be a bunch of spiders. Everyone's going to be lined up, and they're going to come to me as I'm standing in there in the form of my higher self, and I'm going to bite them on the neck and initiate them as a Universe B vampire. And then I'm going to assign them a specific coffin once they've been bit on the neck, and they're going to lay in the coffin that has a specific number associated with it, and they're simply going to lay in there for the transition period. So traditionally what happens is when people receive this service from me, they will notice in the beginning stages, a lot of the times, not all the times, but a lot of the times they will feel tired. There will be a sense of disillusion or a sense of like feeling out of it, a sense of like, I don't have the energy to do things today. And sometimes there can be a little bit of an emotional upheaval. Sometimes people get a little bit emotional, and it gets a little bit it gets a little bit hard to process. So that's why I always tell people that when you receive this vampire service, it's very important to give yourself time to recover. Give yourself time to rest, because you can imagine when you're going through a very big alchemical transformation, it is going to require recovery to allow that transformation to take place. Just like when you get sick, in order to recover after you've been ill, you need to rest and you need to take care of yourself. Okay, but this doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to a lot, and I've made videos that cover this as top tier, for top tier individuals on my Patreon. But with that being said, I will assign everyone a specific coffin, and they will lay in there until they go through the transition phase, and once they are ready to become a real Universe B vampire, they will simply leave the coffin on their own accord, and they will have access to leave the cave and enter into the dimension of Universe B and be their own energetic entity within Universe B, doing what negative polarized beings do. Okay, so at that point, they're going to do what they're going to do under the scope of the negative polarity, and anyone who is a real Universe B vampire, especially if you've been initiated by me, we all work together. We all serve each other. It's almost like we are an aspect of a social memory complex. So when I gain power, you gain power in return. When you gain power, I gain power in return. We share a similar intent. And this is actually something that is self-similar between all vampires, all Universe B vampires, even the ones that are outside of the ones that have been initiated by me. But specifically, especially if you've been initiated by me, we are all very self-similar in nature with a similar intention. Okay, but once again, all Universe B vampires in general are going to share that negatively polarized intention of being consciously walking the left-hand path, consciously understanding what we're here to do on a soul level. All right? So once that part is finished, once I go through that entire visualization, which takes time to go through, the next step is I pull up the energy body of the participants. So I will pull up an archetype of the male energy body for all the males who are receiving the service, and I will pull up an archetype of the female energy body. Typically, I'll visualize the male as the blue, the traditional blue, and the female as the traditional pink. The next thing that I'll do is I'll use my wand, and I will cast 7 spirals in their energy body to pull out anything that is not serving them as they go through the transition. And I will do that to both energy bodies. Once again, just pulling out anything that will prevent them from going through the transition of entering into Universe B. And then the next step is I trace and I draw out my vampire sigil, which once again is the symbol that you see in the intro of all of my YouTube videos and is also depicted as my YouTube profile. And I will trace that in the air, and I will place it in the energy body of the participants. I will literally download it into their energy field, and I will do this process 5 times, once again linking to the pentagram. And I will watch it download into the energy field. So this is changing, once again, the torsion field of the participant's energy field. Rather than being clockwise, it then spins counterclockwise, which is for the negative polarity. All right? Once that's finished, then I go and I put my orb inside of the triangle, and I catch the energy body, and I allow it to manifest into on this planet. Because once again, when I use the orb, the orb is symbolized as the planet's energy body. It can be symbolized as many things, honestly. It could be symbolized as the universe. It's just a big sphere. So the way that I use it in that sense is when I put the orb in the triangle and I catch the energy field of the participant, whether it's the male archetype or the female, that's just signifying it's placing that archetype in the energy field of the planet itself, which is further going to manifest the ritual itself. Okay? And then at that point, let's see, once that's finished, then I will take my wand, and I will do that one with the male and with the female. And once that's finished, then I will take my wand and I'll cast 11 spirals into the triangle of the magician. I'll go clockwise and then I'll go counterclockwise just to make sure I'm fully opening that sphere of death, which is the 11th sphere on the Kabbalistic tree, which represents death energy, energy tending to change. So I make sure that sphere is fully open, and I place the energy into the triangle, which is connected to all the participants who are inside of that triangle. So at this point, I have the ritual itself now sitting in the triangle, and I have the names of all the reoccurring participants inside the triangle as well, and that's as I'm casting the spirals. And once that process is finished, then the ritual is complete. So then I just shut down the operation, I start packing everything up. And then at the final phase, I go and I pull a very intuitive tarot card to sum up what the ritual was signifying. And literally every time I've pulled a tarot card, it's been extremely on the dot. It's been like every tarot card I've pulled following a Universe.B vampire service has literally had to do with some form of initiation, or some form of energetic transference, or some form of apprenticeship even. And for those of you that are Universe.B Vampires top tier members of the Patreon, you know what I'm talking about because I post it every single month. So I find that to be extremely fascinating as well. And then typically what will happen once the entire ritual is complete, then I will, over the course of the next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I will have people reach out to me who have received the service, and they'll start telling me, wow, this is crazy. I experienced this, you know, right after you did the service, or I experienced this the night of the service. I had this crazy dream. I saw you in the astral plane. I had this, you know, this thing happen, you know, in my daily life that is like super different than what I'm used to the day of the service or just following the service. And that is just once again showing the signs of how the service actually manifests in people's lives, and it is very powerful. And yes, people that are reoccurring members, which means if you are a top tier member and you stay top tier, you receive the service every single month, which furthers your polarity on the negative polarity. So it increases your vampiric energy body every single month. And that's why it's extremely valuable for people that remain as top tier, and that's why I designed it that way. And many people do remain top tier. But then there are going to be, you know, a few people that receive it once and then they think they're good and they go about their life, and that may be all they need. But most oftentimes people will receive it once. They'll go maybe a month or 2 months, and then they'll end up joining again because they want to keep getting the energetic benefits from the service itself. All right. So that is the completion of the service. That is literally what I go through in a nutshell, like to be as general as possible and to make this as quick as possible. This is what the service is all about, and this is exactly how I perform it. For all of you that may have been curious about that specific subject. I want to make sure my camera is not going to die. It's going to die pretty quick, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this, definitely come down and hit the like button. Also come down here and hit the notification bell. And then come down here and subscribe if you're not yet subscribed to my channel. All right? Once again, I'm going to take your awareness to the most important link in the YouTube description. Literally. This is the first link in the YouTube description. You cannot miss it. First link at the top. This is clearly where you can join my Patreon. All right? On my Patreon, I have an entire vault of exclusive content. Videos that are similar to this. I have live stream content with tons of valuable information embedded within them. I have content that is practical content, which is me breaking down occult principles and practices on camera and teaching you how to perform them yourself. Very important. Then as you move into tier 3 and up, you're gaining access to an entire magic training course, which I feel like would be extremely valuable, especially if you're a beginner occultist and you're looking for a structured format to follow to start developing your psychic capabilities. And then as you move into tier 4, that is the tier that is all about everything we just talked about in today's video. If you want to become a Universe.B vampire and receive this service, tier 4 is where you do that. Once again, to join, it is the first link in the YouTube description. We're going to leave it there. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to wrap this up soon because my camera's about to end in regards to the memory space. So with that being said, if you want to book a tarot card reading with me, you can do so at the second link below, as well as a one-on-one call. If you want to have a one-on-one, second link below, or any forms of mentorship, you'll all find that information in the second link below. Then as you move into the third link, this is where you can become a YouTube member. As you become a YouTube member, you're getting access to, most importantly, the Psychic Warfare Emoji Program, which is a sequence of emojis that can be used in a psychic warfare manner. All right? With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you very, very, very much. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night, wherever you are. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.